Welcome to another episode of my Motor Town playthrough. Today we are back in Gwangjin because I want to do some more coal trucking. And it's likely going to be a very long episode because I want to do the entire trip in one, so we better get going here. So up to the coal mine first, then getting the coal and bringing it back down and taking it all over to Jeju Harbor. I'm not going to go into the desert for this, at least on this time around. That's going to be a way longer trip than what we have in mind already. Okay, let's see. I need to get a good run up here. This seems to be going well. Hitting the brakes. I mean, I might stay in third, but just go down into 6L lock mode. And we can make it up here. I think usually I can do so without getting stuck like this even, but it's always a bit of a tough spot here. There are going to be a few things where I really need to focus on what I'm doing, otherwise it's likely not going to go too well. And yeah, usually I just go down into 6L lock and I set up the entire truck so that I have an FDR that allows me to get to a decent speed, and that just means basically pulling through in this gear and not having to worry about too much. The first hurdle is definitely the biggest one at this point, at least before loading up the truck and trying to make our way back. So also right now this is one day after the last episode and we're already up into another testing update. So this is T5. The main difference here, and we may see that once we go to Jeju, they changed how the whole terminal bus thing works. Apparently it was broken before, because if you brought people over to the terminals and they didn't have it as a final destination but instead were using it as a layover point, the people just wouldn't respawn at the terminal after getting off the bus. So yeah, basically my intercity routes were pretty much useless at that point. That's been fixed and now there's a lot of money to be made that way again. So yeah, I also spent a lot of time doing that, which is why we are now up at above 2 million. Been using the new bus, which by the way also had a few issues when it came out, but with the current version those have been fixed as well. There was the whole indicator light that I noticed, and that's also now the 4 lights that are part of that set are now also indicator lights, which I think makes a lot of sense. And yeah, the door was broken in 2 ways. First off, the mirror didn't come along, which I didn't notice myself. But also, it wasn't really supposed to be a sliding door to begin with, and instead just be opening on a hinge, which it now does. Not really my favorite. I prefer the sliding doors, but it's more accurate to how it would have worked in real life at the time, and that's why it's been turned into that. I wouldn't mind seeing an upgrade option for that at some point so that we can change it back into a sliding door. But yeah, for the original vehicle in the 50s, the doors would be on hinges, that other stuff would be way too complicated for the time. That's more like future technology at that point. And thankfully that door isn't even all that big, so it doesn't matter that much. If I think back to other doors like from the Tawny and the Cheetah, those things are massive, so you really have to take into account when you stop there and make sure that you don't hit anything opening the door. But with that bus, from my experience now, it's working out pretty well. But yeah, so much as a little update to what the current state of the game is. This video is likely going to come out a few days after that update. We might even be on another testing update at that point. Don't know what their final goal is for this update, what still is to come. I mean, there's still the whole drone thing, which might be stuck in development right now. From what I've seen, they still have a few things to sort out, but who knows. Also, part of the reason why I'm doing this today is because they added the whole ramp thing for unloading coal to Jeju Harbor as well, and I just wanted to try it out again. It's a minor thing, it doesn't really majorly affect how you do the job, but it really helps with unloading, making sure that you are in the correct spot and everything. And that's just, it's a small thing, but it really helps out a lot with this specific task of unloading the coal. But yeah, just about 6 minutes and we are near the coal mine finally. Just gonna get across the bridge here. I think I've also seen people just go into the water, not bothering with this whole, I don't even know what you call them. I call these deckless bridges because for me the bridge deck would be like on the other one, just covering up the whole space. Back at the mine again. I also recently made a few suggestions to the whole place here. First up, I find it a bit weird that we have 2 bus stops here. I would rather have one maybe over there on that side. After all, it's very unlikely that we get an extension to this road here. And that's kind of what would be necessary in order to make all of this make sense. Like the whole thing about having 2 bus stops here. But since this is the end of the road, it should just really be one. Also, I would like to see some industrial building up here, maybe ideally something made out of wood or something. Really old, rustic, that kind of thing. Because at least to my knowledge, from my experience visiting mines in Germany, they usually have some industrial complex nearby for the workers together, to sleep at, to dine at, to also get their gear and everything once they want to go down, and also for repairs and everything to be done. Maybe also a silo for the coal, something like that. I think right now it should be maybe a bit more. But yeah, that all can come in the future, that's really just decoration at that point. But in my mind it would help turning this place into something a bit more believable. Okay, I think this is going to go really poorly. Although 35 kilometers, not too bad. This is one of those places where I need to use my winch. So we're just going to quickly do that. Going slightly too fast, should still be alright. Oh yeah, and I need to downshift. So hit the brakes, hit the gas, so that I at least have the engine pushing against gravity here. And then pull in the winch. Both the engine in combination with the winch should be able to do this. I get that some people prefer to use the dumpy instead, because that can actually just make it up in one go. But I think the amount of extra work we need to do with the semi it's kind of nice. Okay, I always tend to jump instead of just pressing the button to get rid of the winch. Or the winch controller, that is. Okay, maybe downshift again. And yeah, there's going to be at least another point before we go back to the main Gwangjin road, where where I will need to use the winch. But if I'm good with this part, the mud incline on the other side here, that should not be it. So let's try to push through, take as much speed as we can. And also just end up on the grass here for a little bit. Hitting the brakes again, downshifting and pulling ourselves up in second gear. Now we can get back into 6 in order to gain a bit more speed. Honestly, if I had the choice to go into 6x6 locked mode without using the low gear range, I think I would likely just use that. At least as far as I can. Okay, this corner is going to be a bit tricky because the inside is very steep and there's obstacles on the outside. Also going over this, my front tends to go up so far that the steering wheels don't really do much steering anymore. I mean the front wheels. So gotta try to set up, and this might pull me too much over the steep part, so yeah. This is always one to fiddle with. Again, very much easier in the dumpy, but I don't like the dumpy, to be honest. Okay, I hope we still get some steering out of this here. The tree in front of me is not really helping the situation. I would like to go a bit wider. But that might also be why the tree is there, to make things a bit more difficult. But yeah, we just pulled through. I'm trying to not pull against the rock here. And that up in front of me, that's the second place where we are going to need our winch. I don't think there's much of a way around that. I mean, I can try and go down into first gear. But yeah, it's not really working, and I shouldn't have turned off the engine here, but who cares? It's kind of in my reflex now. If I leave the vehicle, I usually turn off the engine. Okay, let's go second gear. And let's winch in. Okay, we are through the thick of it now. There's going to be another winching situation a bit later, but that's going to be on the main trail. So on our way out of Gwangjin. And that's a bit further away from here. Now it should all be smooth sailing until then. Stuff like this we can just overcome with a bit of momentum. Easy. I was always considering maybe going through this little gap in the mountainside here. So just jumping through here, that seems like a possible thing, at least from the other side, but I don't know. Would likely also lead to a lot of damage. And in the end, I always expect the chassis to be fully banged up after the delivery here. That's always usually something that happens. Okay, next little incline, shouldn't be too bad. I mean, I can always downshift for this kind of thing. Oops. Yep. Thank God they glued the coal in, otherwise this might be a bit of a loss here. But yeah, stuff like that sometimes happens. Okay, trying to avoid the mud here. It's the new mud is nasty, especially when it comes to keeping momentum. I get why they use it in some places, because if you can just do everything with momentum, it's kind of fun at some point, but also a bit cheaty. And yeah, we are almost near our starting point here, which is of course the furthest into Guangjin that we can spawn in vehicles for this trip. And I don't mind that they don't have a parking lot up there. I saw some people mention that they would like the option to despawn a vehicle up at the mine if they bring up stuff like logs or whatever else it needs. I think there's also the option to deliver fuel or something. I don't really care, I usually go only for the output. But I think just having a vehicle despawner would be kind of interesting there. Just don't make it a parking lot so that people could spawn in their own things, just vehicle despawning, and that should be it. They can then of course just go back to yeah, wherever they want to be, like Gengyang or something, to the starter house. And that would be one thing. But yeah, I think if they were to include a large parking lot up there, that would be a game changer in a negative way. I like that we don't need to take the empties through the entirety of Guangjin. I think the nearest point to spawn them then would be the Medium warehouse. So I'm glad that we don't need to do that part of the trip, because that's also not all that challenging. But yeah, this one from the entrance of the coal trail up there, I think that's an integral part of the journey, at least for me. But yeah, we are well on our way to get back out of here. I also saw something interesting on the Trello recently that would also change how this entire job is done. They are considering to add like a stockpile somewhere. I think it's likely going to be at the entrance of Guangjin, so the place we are currently driving towards. And that would be quite interesting. It would be something similar to the Medium log warehouse. They can just do inside industry operations, just bringing logs to the warehouse itself. And then maybe later down the line, or have somebody else come by and bring the stuff from the warehouse to their final destination. That would be pretty interesting for this as well. I mean, it would be different if we had the option to buy a larger trailer for coal deliveries. Maybe some people would actually opt to use the dumpy inside Guangjin, because that's ultimately the better off-roading vehicle. But maybe then switch over to the to a semi-truck and trailer there, because that has a lower point of gravity. And you don't need to use the... I should maybe also just go back into 4 high at this point. You don't need to use the Limusi semi for the trailer here. The SRT, for example, also works perfectly fine. It's just as powerful as the dumpy. but with a lower point of gravity, and yeah, that usually helps a lot in corners. But having to choose between the dumpy and this truck, I definitely like this one more. I've done quite a few deliveries in both, and this one is usually a bit more difficult, but also it feels a bit better in my opinion. So this is another spot where we now have the new... I should maybe go back to 6L lock to pull myself over here. Yeah, I think I may have screwed myself. Usually I do this with momentum as well. You know what? Let's see. Can we get a redo here? Can I go back to before the dip and try again as I would normally? There's still a reason to use 6L lock over here. But yeah, these mud pits now slow you down considerably, but overall the most affected here is definitely the bongo when trying to do bus stuff from Gwangjin town. I must be doing something wrong. I remember going through here without needing a winch. Okay, I'm doing this again. There was some sort of tactic that would work for this, and I'm completely whiffing on it now. I start in 4th gear to get a bit of momentum. Go up to 6th. And now let's try 1st. Yeah, we get to around the same point here, so this doesn't really seem to work. Okay, last try. And I'm going back into 4 high. Yeah, at this point I should maybe start in 1st gear. Because we need momentum. I don't know, wasn't really much different than the other attempts in my opinion. We ended up pretty much on the same spot, but maybe with a bit more of an angle. So we weren't pushing directly up the slope, but at a bit of a more shallow angle, and that might have done the difference here. So this is the pit where I usually get stuck with the bongo. Gotta be really careful here. Which is making things a bit more interesting. But of course with off-road ready vehicles like this one here, not much of a problem anymore. Oh, that stupid tree. The trailer is about to tip over and I'm more concerned about the truck not really pointing where I wanted to. Okay, managed to avoid the tree, so now we should be clear. But yeah, when it comes to the whole stockpile idea, if I put it where I think they will, I might as well use that for some of my own ideas as well, given that I don't expect to get a longer and more high capacity coal trailer. Then again, coal capacity right now doesn't really matter anyways, it's just, well, you don't need it for any supply chain. It's basically, the harbors are always like black hole destinations. So they just take as much as you want, but, or as you want to give them, but they don't give you anything back for that. So as long as we don't have anything else to do with the coal, I think capacity is not that much of a concern. Oh yeah, I should also go back into second gear. That should do it. Also, with how I put down the winch, or the winch hook, the cable now is pulling me into the ground instead of further ahead and everything. So that's a tiny difference in how much pull I actually get from there. But it's certainly enough. And that should be the last major hurdle, of course. As I said, 3 times on the way back, 2 times on the coal trail itself, 1 time afterwards, and that's about it. I could have maybe actually saved a bit of time if I used the winch at the part where we turned back from the lake, but it worked out as it did without it. So if I add a stockpile at the upcoming intersection, I would be really happy with that. Especially if I add a few parking lots there, because that would mean I can just come there and do the switch over with my engines there, which we are going to see once we get back to Baiyang. Okay, this is, I think, the tightest hairpin that we have here. There's another one coming up, but it's not quite as hefty as this one here. I still remember my hour-long attempt at trying to bring a full-size trailer through here. It was hopeless in the end, but it was also kind of fun attempting. And yeah, that's the other non-critical hairpin coming up here. It's also kind of nice how they did this entire entry point. If you're having trouble with anything up to this point, you don't really need to bother trying with the rest. It's not going to work out too well. You can do it, but you are setting yourself up for major pain there. And yeah, this is the point where the stockpile would be, and I think that would be really useful for multiple reasons. And I'm just gonna go through medium here. Partially because I want to get to Baiyang, refuel the truck, which by the way now also has its fuel tank back. Or was it just the other versions which were lacking the fuel tank? Oh yeah, and I should also take care of my buses real quick. And yeah, behind me we have, of course, the shortcut. They haven't done anything to it from what I can tell after they introduced it, maybe a bit more decoration, but overall the core of it is still the same as in the T1 version. So I'm not going to bother with it anymore. I took this truck as it is with a full coal load through there one time, mainly winching it all the way up the inclines. Wasn't really fun, wasn't a time saver either, and you're not supposed to take this one through there. But in the end, it was worth doing it one time. Oops. Didn't even see what that was. So yeah, 15 kilometers left, but it should be a lot quicker from here on out. I wasted a bit of time with my retries there at one point, but everything else has been going rather smoothly apart from the one time I tipped the entire thing over and landed on my roof. But at least we don't need to scrape the coal back together. That would be annoying. I could also maybe show you guys a shortcut at this point for the hairpins here. I think we have to take the first two, but the rest can be pretty much skipped if we want to. At least there was a skip in the past version. I think we could also just make it through here. This is more to keep things interesting than really anything else. It's just... yeah, this is a nice little natural ramp. Which I think now that I showed it off might be gone the next update, who knows. But yeah, there's another good skip over here. If we go off the bend a bit early. And there should be a rather smooth ramp down there. I didn't notice the whole thing tipping. But yeah, you can see the ground, how it would be sloping down there. I wonder if that was the tree that caught me off guard. Yeah, the palm trees are, and everything you drive over is definitely doing something a bit weird. But if I just sneak through here, trying to keep an eye on my angle. And yeah, we skip a little section. I know it's a sneaky shortcut, but overall I think there could be something interesting to be done with cross-country traveling. Not just in a cheaty way, but also for, Jesus Christ, doing a bit more creative route planning. So much about the center of mass being lower on this truck, but yeah, everything has its limits, I guess. But yeah, we are coming up to Gangyang in a, or Baiyang in a moment. Not Gangyang. We are still a ways off from that, and we are not even going to that town today. So that's going to be a good time for refuel. Also, one thing that I'm still hoping to see from the 7.7 update before that goes live on the main branch would be to get the ability to just, when driving a bus and going through a bus stop where nobody is waiting at, or even if people are waiting, there should be the option to just drive past them at speed without having to brake. You would of course be missing out on some stuff. And in the end, you really only want to use it if nobody is at the bus stop, and also you have nobody who wants to get off your bus at that point. Anyways, we should be switching over here. But it should be an option. I mean, if nobody wants to get off your bus and your bus is full, then there's also no real reason to stop at a bus stop. Okay, let's see. Bit weird doing it in the entranceway, but yeah, I gotta get going here. So the Jemusi semi would be ready for the next trip now, slightly damaged, but yeah, that's kind of what you expect from the region. And here comes the other one. The SRT, which is going to bring us home. If I can do this whole dance thing here. Also, have I said that I feel like there are too many of the new buses spawning? Like, they appear everywhere. And usually quite a lot of them. But I guess we are going through this part of the map now. I was thinking maybe the other one, but with that road going past the A-Ball racetrack across the island, I think this is going to be the shorter one from this point on. Would likely take the other route if I didn't go to Baiyang, but well, the other route currently doesn't have any parking lots on the way. I think they should really add one to the construction site on the east end of the map. I mean, this one over here. Just for anybody who wants to do the whole concrete, fire and sand delivery stuff. I mean, other construction sites do have a parking lot if I remember correctly. Anyways, yeah, from this point on it should be smooth sailing. I should have maybe repaired the truck in preparation for this video, but sometimes I forget things. Actually happens quite often recently. Another thing that I tried recently was, well, I made a new bug report about the whole plank stacking thing, since the other one didn't go anywhere anymore. And I mainly want to try and explain the entire situation in the opening post. See another one of the new buses. Because, well, from... that's the third one, almost in a row. From what I've seen with the initial bug report, that first up told about the whole planks stacking thing not happening to 9 planks anymore, but the important part in my eyes is that actually the game scales down the reward as if the capacity was still up at 9 for the trailers. So yeah, there's definitely something wrong there. We either should get 6 planks maximum, but also then have calculations work out to 6 planks. Or it should be 9 planks and then keep the reward scaling as it is. But right now, if you do plank transportation using a semi-truck, you are definitely getting screwed over in one way or another. We're still making a tiny bit more when using the Matey, but yeah, there should be more of a difference. Jesus. There should be more of a difference between the Matey and having 6 planks on a semi-trailer. Right now for a long delivery like to Guangzhou coal mine, I think that's less than 10k difference. You get, I think, 76k for the Matey planks for the free, and 80 something for using 6 planks with semi-trailer. It might be around 87 or so, so it would be slightly above 10k. But you should be getting a bit more for that, like 10k more or something, with how the scaling works out. I mean, I don't want to suggest that you should be getting twice as much with a semi-truck that can hold twice the amount as with a Matey. That's not how the entire system works at this point, and there's a good reason why it doesn't. But you should at least get a bit more for the additional trouble that you're having. So I hope it gets picked up now, but it's been there for a few days and that doesn't seem to happen. And that's a shame. But anyways, a few other things that got picked up at a point. I think I talked about this already, just some of the logos on the map now being centered correctly, which is pretty nice. The bus now getting its little issues fixed, and yeah, those are things that just can happen. One thing that I still wish they would be doing differently when it comes to the models is when it comes to the rear lights. There's like 3 main functions for them, or like 4. There's the reverse light, there's the light that you turn on at night, there's indicator lights, and then of course there's braking lights. And I really wish they would just put everything onto their own a little segment of a light and not use the same part for multiple functions. It could maybe work out with indicator lights and just the after dark lights, or what you call them. But brake lights should not overlap with anything else, because that just makes it way harder to read. That's one of those rules that I heard from people in the GTA modeling community. So they try to adhere to that, and especially in racing back then, it was definitely noticeable if you were driving past somebody else at night, and yeah, you could really tell if they were braking. It worked out a bit better if there was a third braking light or something, but ideally those things should be separated and yeah, just have different segments of brake light thingy for different functions. I tried braking, I tried avoiding it, but yeah, didn't really work. And yeah, that's another one of the new buses. I don't know if this is just my bias, because yeah, it's a new thing, of course I'm noticing it, but I feel like there may be a few too many in traffic. Really hoping to see a few more regular traffic cars at some point. The new bus is cool, I've been using it quite a lot, but yeah, also just some regular sedans, station wagons, That kind of deal would be nice. Oh, God. Hay fever is annoying. And that's also a reason why having long videos like this is not a good idea for me, but I can't resist sometimes. And yeah, it should be obvious now that you know what, I'm gonna actually drive past here. Just so that you can see that the terminal is well populated again, which is really nice. I got the feeling, and I need to investigate that further, that maybe not everyone who needs to go to a certain destination always gets on the correct bus. It seems like some people are just staying behind when there was more space and their bus went to where they needed to go. So that's a bit odd, but yeah, gonna have to see about it. The whole other thing I would still like to see is the ability to segment out bus lines, but that's a more complicated discussion, which I had a few times already, I think, so no real reason to get back into that. I'm not even sure if everybody else agrees with that being a good idea to have, but I could definitely see quite a few reasons for such a feature. But that's also a good thing with how development is going right now. We are getting a lot of the essential features for bus lines right now, so the list is going to be shorter, and that's going to allow us to have more focused discussions on the things that we still like to see in there. So the last time I brought this up on the Discord was with a long list of features I'd like to see with like 7 other things at the same time. So yeah, there's not really that much focus on a single feature that takes some time to explain. But later down the line, when the other things are taken care of, then why not come back to it? Anyways, this is part of the reason why I wanted to do today's video, because I love these ramps. Should be good now. Let's just unload here, and it not only makes everything look a bit more purposeful, but also makes it much more clear where you are supposed to be. That's the delivery done, another 113k on my bank account, and I couldn't be happier about it. I don't really know what to do with all this money anymore. I think I want to buy a Coma at some point, which is the in-game version of the Mini Cooper. That's gonna be an interesting little project car that should keep me busy for a while, but it's also not going to be immensely expensive. I think what I'll be doing once the 0.77 version is fully finished and on the live branch, after checking out everything regarding that update, I might just start my new playthrough, which wouldn't be a long thing like this one, but more experimental, just trying to avoid teleportation and just seeing how far I can get while keeping myself and even the vehicles in a consistent place. So they would only ever go where I bring them, and I wouldn't just be teleporting them all over the place using parking lots. Likely a shorter playthrough to attempt, just to see if I could get a worthwhile experience out of doing things a bit more different. Sometimes these kind of restrictions can be really interesting for the experience, but you don't always know before you try. But yeah, for update stuff and just wanting to do the latest late game thing, this will always be one that I come back to, and I think that other playthrough would be going on for a few episodes, and eventually I would just be back on this one, and that would be that. This is definitely a permanent thing. But yeah, that's it for this episode. We have done everything that we set out to do today, and we are going to see what's coming next. Until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time. Have a good one, and bye bye.